let's move into our first segment. So
All right.
first, we're going to talk about Wall Street Journal. They came out with an article. Now, you got to pay for Wall Street Journal, so I actually have an article from Forbes which kind of sums it up. But here it is. Let me pop it onto the screen. Here we go. This is Forbes. Facebook reportedly allowed powerful users to break platform rules. Facebook has exempted nearly 6 million of its most high-profile users from facing consequences for breaking platform rules through systemic and secret tiering system that an internal review described as a breach of trust. Internal documents obtained by the Wall Street Journal purport to show. Now, I'm going to read the key facts here because it basically sums it up very well. Facebook initially created the system known as XCheck or Crosscheck to hear the platform moderate actions, or excuse me, to help the platform moderate actions taken against the platform's most popular users, like politicians and celebrities, according to the newspaper. The system has allowed powerful users to break Facebook's terms of service with few consequences, with some users deemed whitelisted, being exempt from policy enforcement, while other popular users' posts are allowed to stay up pending further review, even if it breaks Facebook's own rules. Brazilian soccer player Neymar, or I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but was protected from sanctions by the system in 2019 after posting nude photographs of a woman who had accused him of rape, a charge he denied, which were permitted to stay up for more than a day despite breaking platform rules about posting non-consensual intimate imagery, according to the Wall Street Journal. The documents show whitelisted users have also shared disinformation and conspiracy theories about vaccine safety. Hillary Clinton's alleged role in a pedophile sex ring, trafficking ring, and other outlandish claims that Facebook's own fact checkers deemed false. A 2019 internal review of the system described Facebook's practices as a breach of trust and not publicly defensible, according to the documents marked attorney-client privileged and obtained by the Wall Street Journal. According to the newspaper, Facebook has minimized the size of the system and the role it plays in moderation. The platform told its oversight board in June the XCheck system is utilized in a small number of decisions. Facebook did not immediately respond to request a comment from Forbes. Now, this is crazy. This is showing like a behind the scenes system that is protecting an elite class. And it's really, you gotta just expect this to be going everywhere in all things, not just with Facebook, not with the things that they were posting, which happened to be terrible things.
So this I did post the other day when this story dropped, but actually the story that I've been tracking is the one you could check for The Guardian. I would just Google,
just
Guardian.
Send it to me right now on Twitter. You got it? You got it up?
My phone's over across the room. You want me to go?
No, I got you.
Yeah, I would just Google Guardian human trafficking Facebook. So actually, not only was that piece really bad that came out about that was like the least of Facebook's concerns over the last week. First, the Wall Street Journal hit him with a huge piece that talked about the fact that the platform has knowingly had sort of an algorithmic problem with making young girl teens feel horribly about themselves. Things like anorexia, just all those types of things. So that was the first piece to come out. And that was sort of the beginning piece from the Wall Street Journal. And then the Wall Street Journal just kept hitting Facebook pretty much all week, back to back to back. Wow. Then what came out was some of the human trafficking stuff about how Facebook has knowingly had human trafficking, open slave markets on their platform. Wow. And how they knew about it and didn't remove it at scale. A full blown, for lack of a better term, slave market in multiple parts of the world, including organ sales as well. So it's really bombshell. It's been really so that's and they kept hitting them. The Wall Street Journal kept hitting them all week with, of course, the usual suspects: the white supremacy, the COVID misinformation, the domestic terrorism. But of course, I focus on that one piece of the Wall Street Journal, really exposing them. And this information was exposed by internal documents provided by a Facebook whistleblower. So this is a really big deal. And there is a there's an investigation now. So now they're going to go in front of Congress, of course. That's what's next to come.
Yeah.
And actually more information was leaked from the documents from the whistleblower as well, that Apple has considered at times removing the platform from the App Store because of human trafficking specifically.
Facebook.
Yes.
Wow.
So this is the new talk. If folks want to scroll down I tweet a lot, so it's hard to keep up with everything that I tweet. But so the new talk is that Facebook has been threatened multiple times to lose their privilege of being in the Apple App Store because of human trafficking on Facebook. And it was some of the, actually, if folks really want to get look at it, you could scroll down on my Twitter. I posted, they have legitimate open slave markets of Black women that were being sold around the world with the Black women. This is they're holding up signs. I have it. It's this, and this is mainstream news. This is in The Guardian. This has been in Forbes. This has been in Fox News. Fox News covered it as well. So this is a huge bombshell. We always knew it was happening, but to have that whistleblower come forward.
Wow. Look at that. I just went to your page. I got this though.
Yeah, you could go down. There's probably more official sources, I guess. But because this story is actually almost a week old. It's old enough now where Congress and the Senate are moving on it. And it's not going to end well.
I'll read a little bit here. Facebook has found itself in another mess. This one, the most underreported, not really surprising. And one of the worst stories from Mark Zuckerberg-led social media. See, in the new report, you basically just summed it up. What really annoys me, though, as I read that Forbes article, and it's almost like they were trying to make it seem not as bad as it really is, because you were like, that's the least of it. And those are all the bulletin points of what it's about.
Because those are two different stories. You're talking about, they just sort of released at the same time.
Okay.
That was a big deal.
This one was September 13th, though.
They're showing preferential treatment. Well, maybe I'm because I thought I had shared originally just that, because for me it was just intriguing. I keep my eye on tech like nobody's business. So to me that was just intriguing that they show preferential treatment. But the trafficking thing specifically, because it's the area that I focus on, and I've been on big tech. I've really, really been on this topic and this situation, and I just think it's interesting in a handful of ways. In a handful of ways, it's very interesting. I think it's interesting that they've fully been exposed. The difficulty is right now the news cycle is so chaotic. It's just been really, really hard to just get any oxygen in the room. I think since, Afghanistan, which rightfully so, that was a huge story, but it's just really hard to get any oxygen in the room. So every corporate media outlet has covered this. Mm-hmm. The fact that Facebook has just been super exposed for open slave markets, knowing that they had it and didn't do anything about it. The communications director came out. So Facebook has come out and said, oh, we have the best and blah, blah, blah. So they put out a whole blog about it. It's been a whole dramatic scene. But at the end of the day, there's a lot to unpack. At the end of the day, we can't allow our social media big tech platforms to engage in knowingly profiting off of human rights violations. This is America. This is America, so we don't allow that. They have been exposed. They were already exposed not even that long ago. The Human Trafficking Institute put out their 2020 report. I think it was in CBS. Once again, if you Google just human trafficking, Facebook, it'll pop up. Predominantly what we're seeing in the United States is grooming and trafficking on Facebook. Facebook is the spot for human trafficking, period. It's partly because of the size, scope, and scale, and also because they're hyper-focused on censoring other things. Yeah. So, wrong
things.
Of course, yeah. So they're giving preferential treatment to the elites. Mm-hmm. They are not removing human rights violations. I do want to give Facebook just one little credit. Okay. I do want to give them one credit. So they implemented a new child sexual abuse material scanning and removal process 6 months ago. Okay. and it was, I think, 2 weeks ago, they put out their report. So after 3 months of their new child sexual abuse material removal technology, they have removed almost 30 million, just shy of 30 million profiles between Facebook and Instagram. 30 million in 3 months.
That's a lot. 30
that
million.
that had child sexual exploitation, child sexual abuse material on it. So I do want to give them credit there. They really, really upped their game with their tech, with the child sexual abuse material. There's one catch. There's one catch. There's always a catch.
Of course there is.
So they are implementing now, of course, more end-to-end encryption. So I personally feel like that's why they made the big push to remove a large swath of the child sexual abuse material, because once the platform becomes more about end-to-end encryption, and once it becomes more private, pedophiles, abusers, traffickers, will trade where it's private. Yeah. So, a lot of activists and advocates are pushing for them to hold off on the end-to-end encryption, but that's not reality. So I think that they did a big removal beforehand.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, people are just going to go elsewhere because more and more people nowadays are realizing that they want control over their data instead of having some big tech company sell it to whoever. I mean, you look at like when you have to accept cookies and you just look at the list of companies that are interested. It's an insanely long list. If you want to like really dig into who's paying for the website that you're going to for the information about you, it's pretty insane. So, I mean, I've got Brave browser, which is fantastic. I use it to basically block everything. It's fantastic. But yeah, it makes sense. So people if they are able to do end-to-end encryption, it's such a platform that they're abusing already. Why wouldn't they, use it still? So
this is my thing. So where I like to make the distinction, and I think after you and I met, I really started to kind of come into a groove of where I think I just started to hit a little bit more of a groove as an advocate and just as a public survivor leader, because I realized at a certain point, it was like I was chugging along, doing my interviews and everything.
Yeah.
And there was a time where I really realized that our privacy was going to become an issue. Yep. And where tyrannical governments were using this issue of human trafficking and child sexual abuse material to gain more control and more surveillance over its citizens. And so I also started speaking out about that as well, because I felt this deep sense of responsibility. Like, I want to point out, we do have a problem, and we do. It's really bad with the sexual abuse material and the human trafficking. And then, but I also think that privacy is very important. So I've taken some hardline stance along that as well. So I want to make it very clear to folks that when I advocate to remove child sexual abuse material and human trafficking off of big tech social media platforms, I mean, these posts of child sexual abuse material and of human trafficking, open slave trade right up on Facebook, this is on the main feed. Yeah. This is not like, this is not something that's going on behind the scenes in encryption. Yes, of course it is going on there too, right? But I mean, I'm pushing just for these tech companies to just remove what's on the main, and they can't even seem to do that at scale.
Well, that leads right into our next segment. Please, what were you about to say there?
I was just going to say, now in Facebook's case, they've been completely exposed by their whistleblower with internal documents that they have known about the human trafficking, open slave trade on their platform, and refused to move it even once they knew about it, which is pretty evil and grim. I try so hard not to use the word evil, but I mean, what else can you call it? If you're letting these Black women be sold open slave trade on your platform and you're just not removing it once you know about it.
It's crazy.
And the thing that kills me, Adam, this is what really kills me, that like kind of almost keeps me up at night, is I have quotes from Mark Zuckerberg from the time of Black Lives Matter. Him saying, I have all the Black Lives Matter quotes from Mark Zuckerberg about how he stands with Black folks simultaneously. Black, brown, indigenous women, LGBTQ are getting trafficked on your platform. It's really disgusting.